Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go to make an arm rig. And I'm gonna keep this super simple. Forward kinematics, nothing special in the arm rig. And let's see, I need some controllers for this. So, what do I want? How about, first off, let's go and create some nabs cycles. I should put that on my shelf here. Boop! Sorry, just made me think of the Hudsucker proxy for a second. Boop! Okay, so I'm just gonna take this and let's pop that right up here. Now, when I go in and I hold down J and I'll rotate it over so I get something like this. Okay, great. So we can kind of see what we're looking at. What I'd really like is for this to line up exactly with this joint. You'll find that if I do like a parent constraint in here, it'll get tricky. So it'll get funny. So I'm going to do something a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do to line it up with the joint is I'm going to go in and select the joint first, and then I'll hold down shift and I'll select the circle. I'll put on the rotation tool so you can see this. Because when I zoom in, you'll notice that they're off a little bit. They don't line up exactly the same. Even when I grab the scale tool, and I select that, and I select that, they're not perfect. So, select this joint, select this. And I'm going to go into Constraint, and there's an Orient constraint. Now, if I didn't want to mess with anything in here, I could just accept the default settings, but I'm not. I'm going to be fussy. I'm going to go ahead and... before I do this, one other thing I should do. I should freeze my transformations before I do this. Otherwise, this won't work properly. Let's get rid of the history, and I'll make this into a happy size. Happy size... Bring my geometry. Happy size. I can change the vertices later on. Great. Freeze the transformations. Get rid of that scale value crap. Okay, so select the joint, hold down shift, select this curve. And I'm going to hit apply. Now you notice that it goes in and it lined up, they're both lined up exactly the same now, except this has some dirty transformations on it now. Okay, I like those to be 0. Okay, so here I'm just going to get rid of that constraint. You can see the constraint popped on here. And remember, I always have options, display, shape, hidden, and underworld nodes on here. You can probably find it in the outliner too, but I'm just going to get rid of this orientation constraint. And you'll see that gets the colors change over here. Okay, now here's the evil thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a duplicate. Okay, so I've got 2 circles on the same spot. And I'll even prove it. Scale this one up slightly. You can see there's 2 circles on the same spot. And I'm going to take this little shape node off of this one and I'm going to delete it. And if I middle click and push this one here, okay, I've just parented this this circle to the transform node of this old circle. I got rid of the shape node off of it. And when I did that, that zeroed out the transformations. If I go in here and I freeze them right now, oh, it's because I put those stupid scale values on here. Let's just put those back to 1. What I've basically done is I've gone in and I've absorbed all the rotation into this thing up in here, that transform. And I usually go in, and let's just go here, and we'll say this is like shoulder underscore control. Let's just copy that, so we control C. And I'll just hit enter. And now, when I go in and I take this one, I'm going to go control V, and shoulder control, and I'm just going to underscore it, and I'm going to call it the dirty group. Dirty GURP. Okay, and so I do that so I can absorb all those things, but whenever I select this controller, I'm going to be selecting that and it's going to be zeroed out, but there's this other little hidden node in here that's absorbing all my rotations. Now I could ignore all this stuff and I could use maintain offset when I do this too. Okay, that's the simple way through it. So I'm kind of showing a crazy advanced way of doing this. I'm going to make a duplicate of this, unparent it. That one's got all the crazy things on it. We'll just take this, and I'm going to grab my move tool, and I'm going to hold down V, and I'm going to pop it here. And I'm going to do the same process again. I'm going to take this thing, so I select the joint first, select the controller, and I'll constrain, orient. Boop. Okay. So now, don't pay attention to that one. It's usually the scale tool always lines up to the axis of these two. Okay, great. I'm going to get rid of the constraint. Little constraint node, got rid of it. I'm going to take this, make a duplicate, take this one, delete it. Actually, even before I do this, how about this? Why don't I take this, instead of shoulder control, let's call this one elbow control. Boa. Okay, and let's go in there. And then I'll make the duplicate. I can take the shape node, delete it, middle click, drag and drop, boom. And then I'm just going to take this one, I'm going to get rid of that one here. So I got a fruit fly buzzing around me. Elbow control, dirty group. Okay, so that's absorbed all of my weird transform. Oh, and you know what? I've got this translation here. It's really the rotation I'm really worried about. If I just right click, I can go in here and freeze the translates. It gets rid of those. But I want to keep those rotations there because now when I select this, they're zeroed out. Okay, and how does that look? That fits okay with the arm. Okay, let's do one more of these things. They're ugly, they're dirty. Just gonna make a quick duplicate, and I'll unparent it. All I'm doing is middle click, dragging off into the black. And then I'll go over here, grab this, hold down V, pop it here, and let's just make sure we got a good size for this puppy. Scale it. Actually, we're fine. Okay. And I'm just going to get rid of the translations here, so I'm going to freeze those. I don't want to freeze out the rotations because I'm going to line up the rotations with the wrist joint. So I grab the joint, grab the controller, and I'll go in here, constrain, orient, boom. Now they're lined up exactly in the same line. If I grab the scale tool and I just check, looks like my orientation might be a little bit wacky here in the wrist. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to skip over it. Get rid of this. Boop, delete. And then take this thing and let's not call that, this we'll call it wrist control. I can even call it hand control because I think I'm going to do all my set-driven keys on my fingers here and everything like that. Great. So I'll take this, make a duplicate, and we'll get rid of that. Boop, that node, middle click, pop it on here, wrist control, and underscore, dirty group. Done. Okay, that's zeroed. And so we got all those set up. The other thing we got to do, let's start parenting these together. I'm going to take this dirty group from the wrist. I'm going to parent that to the elbow control. Take the dirty group from the elbow, or the elbow controlled dirty group, and I'm going to be parenting that to the shoulder control. Okay, and so now those are all lined up. And if I select this controller first, I select this joint here for the shoulder, and I go constrain, and I put an orient constraint on it. Nothing weird's going to happen. Okay, nothing weird should happen. Grab the controller first, hold down shift, grab the joint now. Constrain, orient. Grab the controller, grab the joint. The last one selected is the slave. And so now if I grab this controller and I rotate, it's all going to follow along. This one all follows along. Wonderful. Okay, so those are set up. Hopefully everything's exactly the same on the other side, so it'll make everything lovely. For some reason, everybody will make things asymmetrical or something weird. Now this clavicle control here, it depends what you want from this beast. I've got a couple different ways to do this. Let's just make it a rotation. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to create another nerve circle. Actually, I put a little Hudsucker proxy button on here. And I'll just take this and hold down spacebar. I'm going to take this thing and I'll put it up here, hold down J and rotator it. And I'm going to make it bigger. I almost want to make some other kind of looking control out of this. What if I take the nerve circle and take the sweep, and let's put the sweep down to say like 180? 180. So it's just like half a circle. Okay, something easy to see and grab. And the fact that it's a half circle makes it a little bit more unique, so it's easier to find, hopefully. Kill the history, freeze the transformations, and I'm going to call this clavicle control, clav_control. Okay, and this one, how do I want to deal with this? If I go in and try to line these two puppies up, so if I grab this joint first, grab this thing, and I go constrain, oriento, and they seem to be orienting out. Oh, I guess I haven't actually changed the axis on this now that I'm sitting here and staring at it. You know what? I'm going to just fake it and pretend that I meant it to be that way. Let's just do it. Orient. Okay, so when I grab this by itself and I go rotate, it's going to rotate that. I should also make it so the pivot point of this, so I should, before I do this, I'm just going to undo one more time. Make sure the pivot point for this is sitting right there. Okay, let's try it again. Constrain, orient. So now when I grab this thing, I can control the clavicle. Okay. Yeah, I noticed a mistake, and I don't want to teach bone orientation on this go. I'll save that for next time around. So the clavicle control, I don't need a dirty group on. I'm just going to parent the shoulder control dirty group to the clavicle control. My God, this is amazing. What are we at? We're at the 12-minute mark. Good God, I explained a lot of crazy stuff. I should also explain, too, that if I go in here and I rotate this, you might notice that it rotates it, but also, too, we need something here in the forearm. This works, okay, but it doesn't twist very nicely, and I'm going to get something funky in here. So what I'm going to do is, let's take this controller, and I'm going to zip into the connection editor, and I'm going to find the rotation. There it is, kind of in the middle. That's how I just always remember it's vaguely just in the middle-ish. So if I take this, put it in the middle, boop, there it is. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab the ulna joint, and I'm going to take this and find that middle section right there. And this controller, that's going to be an X, so it's going to be a rotate X. Let's grab that joint, and that one's also going to be a rotate X. So if I do this, now when I have that joint here, whenever I select this thing and I rotate it, it's going to start to spin my ulna, and maybe hopefully I modeled that right so that I get a nice twist in my forearm. Okay, zero that out. I don't know if I want to do an expression on here. That might be a bit much. If anyone wants, I might do an expression, because I noticed that if it is 1-to-1 in here, just like a direct connection, that it twists too much. So I like to put it about half, but yeah, you probably won't notice. Because this is your first go around on this. So that's good. And what are we at? 13-minute mark. Okay, next thing. I'm going to go in and try to do the fingers. Now when I do the fingers, I want to make little set-driven keys on my wrist control. I might even call this like hand control. Right? Because there's so much going on. This is the hand control, really. So I noticed that your finger does this. And it also does this. So there's two different little movements in here. There's kind of a bend, and then there's this one here that goes in and does two joints at once. And I just got to pause for 1 second. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I got to do some set-driven keys on here. So I'm going to grab this controller, and I'm going to go here to Modify, Add Attributes. And, oh, this is going to take a while. Index. This is going to be index bend. I'll do 1, and then I'll just do all the rest when no one's looking. -10, 10, 0. Okay, great. I'm going to hit add. I'm also going to do the bend curl. Okay, and -10, 10, 0. I'll just hit OK, and I'll do all the rest afterwards. I'll put it on pause while I do them. So I got 2 different ones. Bend, and then with these 2 together, I call those the curl. You can put in them individually as well if you want, but too much. Too much! And this is going to be, on this one here, it looks like a rotate Z. Okay, check it out. That's my Z axis. So I'm going to highlight this, edit, set driven key. Z's already hooked up. I'm going to grab this controller, and I'm going to load the driver. And we got bend curl, index bend. You know, I'm really tempted to use the connection editor instead. But if I take this and I key it, then I take the hand control, I take the bend, we'll go to 10, grab this puppy, whoop, and I find that sweet spot right there. I'll call it there, and I'll key it. And then I'm going to take the bend and we'll go the opposite way. And typically, I don't know, like if you're falling off a skateboard, your hand doesn't go much further than that, I don't think. Okay, great. Let's grab the bend curl, grab this joint and this joint, load driven, whoop, highlight them both at the same time, rotate X, and I can key those. I should have zeroed this out before I started doing this. 0. Great. And now those are keyed. Take the bend curl, 10. I take the 2 joints here. I'm just going to see if they look okay when I do this. Hopefully. Oh, that's pretty nice. I'm rotating them both together. You can do them one at a time. And I'm just going to hit key. I'm trying to go faster. And I'll take this and I'll find a way to go 10. I thought I keyed those. Do they rotate X? Oh, you know I did. I did the wrong rotation. And so let's right click and assume preferred angle and get rid of that rotate X in here because it's a rotate Z. So if I have them both selected, if I right click, I can go in and hit break connection, or I could have undone my way out of that. Rotate Z. Make sure this is 0 when I start this off. Key it. Take the curl, 10, take these 2, and rotator them. Perfect. Now let's go here when they're just touching like that. Oh yes. Okay, and now I'll just check it. 10 to 0, great. And I'll go to -10. I don't know how often I'm going to use this one that I'm doing, but whatever. Grab the 2 joints, rotate them back. Key. And now if I just check them out on the controller, let's take this and take them both to this value. Looks like I need to do a little bit more weighting here, but I can make a fist really easily. Okay, and I can control how this one goes by itself and these other ones follow along. And I might make set-driven keys for a lot of these different attributes, and every finger I can do that. Then when they're all together, I can just quickly grab them all in one fail swoop. I'm just going to go in and zero these out. What time are we at? The 18-minute mark. I'm going to... Okay, so I just went and I did it all. I grabbed the controller, and now if you check out all my fingers and my thumbs, I can middle click and I can get a fist. There's some weighting issues in here that I haven't addressed, but I've got all the fingers done. Okay, great. And I can take this thing, and if I'm being sneaky, I can make a duplicate, and I can group it. So I'm just going to go Control G and group the duplicate. And if I grab this and I do a quick scale tool, hold down J, flip it to the other side, I have all the controls in the exact same spot on the other side. This one here has all those set-driven keys on it because I made a duplicate, so I'm in good shape. And I'm just going to take this and quickly identify this as the modify prefix hierarchy names L _ left side. And this one here, We're going to take that and do modify prefix hierarchy names and our underscore. Great. And oh, it's got a negative scale value on it. I'm just going to get rid of that. I want to get rid of that negative scale value. There's a rotation 180 on here. And I'll just leave that one absorb and let it absorb in here. I might have to freeze out the transformations and do some of these things again, actually. But the big freeze thing, if I just highlight this and right click, freeze scale, then it's gone. But I might have some other problems, so I might have to go back and do some of this dirty group stuff again. I'm just trying to save a bit of time. But that should work out. And these two controls here, the clavicle controls, should be parented to that shoulder control. And so now when I rotate that around, it's going to move everything there. Sometimes what I do is I do this evil thing where I grab the two of them at the same time. Okay, great. My hips, how do my hips work? I'll just take this and wiggle my hips. Great, because that gives me that independent hip control without having to do an IK spline back. And it looks like everything else is working. Is there anything else I'm missing on here? And I got to finish doing this side. Still got an eye rig to go. Okay, I'm going to stop here.